Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery, a lovely little brewery over on the east side of Cincinnati. These guys are making some of the best beer you will find in the city, bar none. If you do, head on over to their tap room, which I cannot recommend enough. I'm going to highly recommend you check out the Game Ball Golden Ale there. It's a nice, easy drinker. I think you're really going to enjoy that one. And what's really nice about the tap room is that they always have different events going on. There's always a food truck outside, at least one food truck outside. Coming up this weekend, they've got live music all day Saturday, including Jonathan Cody White. And then again on Sunday with Monty Likens, there is some good music going on. If you are up early Sunday, June 23rd, at 9 a.m., there's a Formula One watch party. Check it out. Again, Streetside, the tap room is really cool spot to go to. The patio is beautiful. I think you will really enjoy it. If you haven't had a chance, please go check them out over in Columbia, Tusculum, 4003 Eastern Avenue. It is a really cool spot. And a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode of the Postcast. And on today's episode, we get to talk about a very thrilling win over the San Jose Earthquakes. FC Cincinnati on a roll. Nay, Yuya Kubo is on a roll, riding the postcast bump onto a hat trick. This is an awesome game to get the opportunity to talk about. In part two, there's some rumors out there, some names headed to FC Cincinnati. Big names? What a debate. What is a big name? What would qualify as a big name signing for FC Cincinnati? Then in part three, we turn it right around with a preview of the Philadelphia Union match coming up this weekend. But first, touching on a couple of Patreon questions, this is a very full episode of your Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, joined by two gentlemen still groggy from staying up late last night, taking in some FC Cincinnati, joined once again by the Chief and Grayson. Chief, let me ask you this. Where did you watch the game?
So, as you can see, the listeners at home can't see this, but I am no longer in the closet. Hopefully the audio quality has improved. You can't hear anyone taking a shower in the background, so that's always a positive.
Once again, happy Pride.
Absolutely. To everyone, regardless of where you are in life. No, we left family vacation, and I'm a firm believer in my ripe old age in the break the drive up plan when it comes to taking a long trip somewhere. So we decided to pick an equidistant point between home and the coast. And so I was in Asheville, North Carolina last night. And once I remembered the game was late, I allowed myself to become profoundly overserved at some of the various brewing institutions of Asheville, North Carolina. So I took in the first couple minutes of the game at Burial Brewing and then walked back to my hotel and finished the rest of it off in a hotel room, preparing to be hungover for the remainder of the drive the next morning. But you know what? If I'm going to be hungover for a late night match, I want to be hungover after watching a win. And not just any win, that win in particular.
the Yuya Kubo game, as it will always be known as. Grayson, same question to you. Where did you watch this game?
I watched it in an undisclosed location.
Ooh.
I watched it at... I don't know, let's say my home away from home. I was out of town this weekend.
TQL Stadium. Oh, no.
Yeah,
okay.
the
First Financial Club.
The 10:30 kickoff time was helpful because I was able to go, out, take in a comedy show, have a couple post-show drinks, and get back and just, watch the game and then crash.
Nice. That's the dream right there.
The simple joy of the late night kick.
I will say, having experienced the 10:30 kick, it made me realize that folks on the West Coast have like the best MLS viewing experience. That they do get MLS all day kicking off at 4:30 and occasionally the random game a little earlier, all the way up to their 7:30 home kickoff. Like East Coast, you might get to watch some of the late night game after a home match, but West Coast has it figured out. That's the dream setup.
Yeah, and if you get the random Wednesday 7:30 match on the East Coast, that's happy hour. You just roll right out of the office or the home office, right down to the watering hole, and pray that they've decided to sign up for Apple TV.
And to watch it on your phone like a weirdo.
Yeah, sit there in the cubicle like that. Kevin, I will correct you on one thing.
Ooh,
I don't
please.
believe this was the Yuya Kubo game. I believe that this was the Yuya Kubo game presented by the Postcast, personally.
It was.
It was.
I think we got to have the full. If it's the MLS Cup playoffs presented by Audi, this was the Yuya Kubo game presented by the Postcast.
Man, I got to tell you, nothing felt better than remembering that like we were early on this. We were on the Kubo hype train, and as the goals started pouring in, I mean, it felt good. It felt so good that like, hey, we got him. Like,
I was bummed he wasn't in the starting lineup, thinking to myself, we're going to be robbed of the Yuya Kubo Postcast bump. I shouldn't have doubted, because my man, he didn't need a full match in order to show the benefits of being a guest on the Cincy Postcast. He just needed his substitution time. He needed 9 minutes to show everyone the benefit of being on this dumb show.
He played, I would say, I mean, would it be fair to say that he played unburdened?
ooh.
You know, like he had the opportunity to kind of come out of his shell a little bit and felt more personally just like free
Yes.
and out there. I think that's fair to say.
One might even add that he was coming out of his cage and he was doing just fine.
I was thinking about that. I decided not to.
Yeah, it was a light, sampling of a sports therapy session. Say he got to talk about the yop, which was good, and
now
imagine if he had 25, 30, 40 minutes.
There's no telling. There's no telling how many goals he would have scored.
So I need some help from the 12s out there. I need some help from the people that are listening. The FC fan base memed that Brandon Vasquez eats pancakes before every match so thoroughly into existence that Brandon himself had to go with the bit. I need someone to badger the reporters of this fine team. I love you, Pat. Love you, Laurel. Love everyone who covers this team. We need to ask the coaching staff.
Carter,
did Yuya Kubo, Carter, we're still working. He's Canadian, so he's got to earn it a little bit harder. We need the question out there. Did he eat Chipotle before the match? I need to find out. And if he did, that needs to be a question before every match. Are you planning on eating Chipotle before this match?
And what's his order?
We fucked up. I fucked up.
Yeah.
Hand up. That's on me. We should have asked what his order is. I deeply and profoundly regret this. So Carter, you want to fast track yourself to mega American status? Somehow sneak in what his order is at the Chipotle.
They better do that before the tariffs get levied too.
Right.
The clock is ticking, Carter.
But it was what did they say, the 5th fastest hat trick in MLS?
I think fourth.
4th fastest? Okay.
They said it was tied for 4th fastest, which I find impossible to believe because
right.
We can clearly break this down into we can go beyond minutes. We can we can check the seconds on this, right?
But pre-2005 MLS is basically like the dead ball era.
Oh yeah, you guys are hearing all these fucking motorcycles outside the window here. Sorry,
your undisclosed location is on the set of The Bike Riders. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's me and
you and Austin.
Me and Tom Hardy just practicing weird voices.
He loves a weird voice. What can
You
you
want to
say?
be part of a biker gang, eh? I imagine that's how Tom Hardy sounds in that movie.
That's
What?
just acting, baby.
I think Austin Butler had to hire a voice coach to get rid of the Elvis Presley accent.
He's so funny. Actors are so funny.
The best.
They have such special, beautiful minds.
That stuff is hardcore, referring to the three-way. Like
Not hardcore till after you eat it.
right? Fair. It's like
That
the
stuff is,
grandparents.
that stuff is hardcore, man. I had that chili and the spaghetti.
The California mind cannot comprehend.
I liked him in Dune. I gotta say.
Yeah, it was fine. I liked him as Elvis. It was fantastic. As far as biopics go, Kevin,
Weird.
let's do the lineups and let's get into this because this was
So the bikes just came by, and now the ambulances are going by.
Oh, good. Okay. You're going to have to keep us updated on this.
wave hi to Gordon Ramsay when you see him. Kevin,
It's a
what were the
developing story.
lineups here?
Yeah, so FC Cincinnati, changing things up top. So in goal
There's a
and on the
limo.
back line. Roman Celentano started off in goal. It was Ian Murphy, Matt Miazga, Nick Haglin from left to right. No Miles Robinson. Luca Orishano out left wing back. Deandre Yedlin outside as a right wing back. Wabodo, Buka, and Acosta, that starting midfield trio. And up top, Kevin Kelsey and Sergio Santos. No Kubo, no Dado, which I think is interesting. And then again, I'll highlight it. Miles Robinson not back in time. Grayson, should Miles Robinson have played in this game?
I mean, I think yes, but I think Shaq Moore also was not available for Nashville. It's maybe they're just staying with the U.S. team.
I thought about
prepping
that
for Copa America.
Yeah,
But like, I'm not sure that was ever messaged.
nope.
Like, so I think I saw somebody say like he's gonna miss as many as 6 games. That's not true. He's gonna miss more than that. Like, if you count like the 2 he's gonna miss like 3 in a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. MLS chooses to play through these international windows. I just want to know, like, am I supposed to care about my team having its players and winning games or not? I just want to know, like, is this a team that exists for the purpose of like putting players on a field and winning games, or is it like a sideshow to like development to developing players that like the national team can grab, and it doesn't matter if you win any games?
Yeah, there's a problem is that there's an answer to this and we all hate it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's inverting the schedule and playing through the winter and sitting through horrendous sub-zero freezing cold games in January and February and December. And nobody wants to do that. And so unless something gives at a FIFA level, how do you not play through the Copa? It goes on for fucking a month. Like,
There's a solution.
Well, it's
there
not
is
just
one
not,
solution.
Hold on. Before we talk about the schedule, it's not just that. It's right. It's like you have Miles is potentially going to be away from the team for like 2+ months.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about him also being in the Olympic team, which, by the way, is not a mandatory call up. You don't have to release players to the Olympics. It's also like really none of my business. However, the team and Miles want to work that out, but it's annoying.
Yeah.
That because Miles played all of 0 minutes in those 2 friendlies.
Yeah.
He did not touch the field in bounds.
He should be
like,
disrespected. Feel disrespected.
Right? So like
yeah.
it's. I understand if it's like, oh, we need this guy. He's a starter for us. But if they're not going to play him, why not pull one of the center backs playing in Europe and let Miles play with the team that's paying his salary? That is trying to win trophies, right? And you know, I mean, I know Miles likes playing for the national team, like every player does. But like pull him away for Copa America and then the Olympics. And then what? He's going to come back and like have to go through preseason again. Like, I don't know. I don't like it. But I guess, you know, it's weird that you just, that it's I guess it's unusual for players for fans to like look at MLS as like a meaningful competition that is worth winning and wants their team to win. I get that that's maybe weird versus saying like, yeah, let's just try to finish better than last in Copa America. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so two things about this. One is this does happen every 3 years, is it, with the African Cup of Nations, where good European teams, the best European teams, miss key contributors for a month or more during that time period just because of how their schedules line up with how Africa runs its tournament. But the solution is, and the problem is Leo Messi, the solution is run Leagues Cup during this time.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Then you do test teams' depth. It is the secondary tournament to MLS. It has to be. It's just literally just not big enough, like inventory of games wise, to beat it. And yeah, you just do it that way. You schedule it during a time where you overlap hardcore on the Euros and the Copa America, and it would be fine. But MLS wants to maximize eyeballs on Messi, and only because Messi is going to represent Argentina in the Copa America, they're not doing it this way. If Messi was the exact same player, but like from Thailand, I think they would have already done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't solve the Olympics problem.
The Olympics is weird, yeah.
But it doesn't solve the problem because, again, this sport is run, but it's a Eurocentric sport at a governing body level, and they shove all these tournaments into the summer because the Eurocentric leagues aren't playing here. I mean, there's no reason why the Copa America and a lot of these other things couldn't play in the winter. They could invert the schedule the way African Cup of Nations does. Like, to me, the one that never made sense to me is the fucking Gold Cup. Like, why is the Gold Cup not played in the winter? Like, why?
Right.
Like, it's a predominantly North American tournament. There's no reason why it can't play in the winter. Like, there's.
My guess is the U.S. and Mexico wants their European players there, but they would have to be able to be pulled out. It's stupid. I agree. God damn it.
Run it during the African Cup of Nations. It's not like any of these big European teams are actually missing their American and Mexican players.
Hey, Chucky Lozano is an integral part of the PSV team that they're happy to let walk in his prime to MLS. Okay.
Jesus.
Christian Pulisic puts up the same numbers as
Pulisic was a big player for Milan this year, to be fair.
Sure. But
I guess
same stats as Giroud.
Giroud is 10 in this. Let's
put a pin in this
because this is very relevant to segment 2. So let's
talk about the game.
Fair enough.
All right. So first half of the game, only thing that I want to point out is the first half you get your indications that the pitch is garbage. And I don't know why the pitch is garbage. As best I can tell.
From the airport.
Chemtrails.
Well,
close enough.
Done. Sold. We've solved that. We've solved that issue right there. No, I think Lucho slips within the first 10 minutes of the game and gets dispossessed, and it leads to a San Jose counterattack. And from that point forward, everybody's footing looked like absolute dog shit. I don't understand why. It's not like they have some special blend of turf. It's not like it's an artificial playing surface. It seems like a normal-ass grass field that just absolutely no one could get any traction on for some reason, and I don't get it.
The only thing I can think of is this is the first year of the NWSL expansion side, Bay FC, and maybe their field team just isn't up to dealing with two teams on the same field at the same time. That's the only thing I could think of. There's no reason why that should be bad.
I would really like to not blame women's professional sports.
No, I'm blaming the field.
Sounds like you're blaming the women there.
Look, my first thought is always
Kevin what I'm hearing from you, Kevin, is that if we get this NWSL expansion team, you got to fear for the safety of our players at TQL Stadium. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, no. What I am saying is that the women play harder than the men, which is why they're harder on the field than the men. See, it makes perfect sense. No, my first thought is always like, oh, what weird spring not NFL league is playing at this stadium? And I don't think they have one. So I do think that's the only thing. But
yeah, looked like
it was
garbage.
weird, right? Like,
yeah, no.
This game would have gone differently, and FC Cincinnati would have, I think, been winning early without the slipping on like a normal field.
No,
now, granted,
it reminds me of like the whole Notre Dame would grow the grass longer when they would play USC because they thought it would equal out the talent that like, oh, their fast guys won't be as fast if the grass resembles the rough at the U.S. Open. This will be so much easier for us to deal with.
Right.
A shitty playing surface kind of brings everyone down to a bad level.
I actually agree with that. There is something to be said where like it's hard to be more technical when the conditions are shit.
Yeah, and that was what they said about the U.S. men's national team and all these CONCACAF venues is that, you're taking all these really talented European players that are used to pristine surfaces and having them run around on rocks and dirt with a running track around the outside, and they don't play as well on these playing surfaces when you have to go to Trinidad and Tobago or to some small Central American country.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, it was weird. It's funny that this game is 0-0 at halftime, right? Like, there's 6 goals scored in this game. Nothing happens in the first half of particular note.
There were a couple, like San Jose had a couple of breakaways that sort of they never got to 1v. There was 1v1 where somebody came. I think it was Miles. Or not Miles, Ian came streaking out of nowhere to break or Yedlin. Yedlin came streaking out of nowhere, and Roman was beaten, but like there was no shot. The guy just sort of skiffed the shot opportunity. So there were a couple of opportunities that San Jose had in that first half, just playing on the counter. But, the FC outpossessed them. I think it was 60-40 on the possession numbers in the first half. They took more shots. They had way more of the ball, way more of the possession. I think what I said at the half on the Discord was that there was a very clear talent gap on the field between these two teams. And it was very noticeable in the first half that almost at every position, FC Cincinnati was a better team and had better players than San Jose.
Yeah, 100%. I also forgot the first 2 minutes. Roman has a pretty cool looking fingertip save from a shot. That was kind of a neat moment. It's one of the only times I can remember Celentano meaningfully contributing in this one. Not to say he did anything particularly wrong, just that's the one save that it stuck out to me. So we get to the second half, and it doesn't take long, 53rd minute, for the strongest man on the team, Pavel Buka, to jump out on a garbage ball. Another slip right in the middle of San Jose's defense. He pounces on it and just drives it in home. It was perfect. It was like the classic cleanup shot. It's what we saw Brenner do a lot of, honestly, of just like pressing and pressing to eventually win that ball again and surprise shoot on goal. And it was really nice to see Buka get his first goal. I don't know how much there is to talk about on this one, but well done. Yeah.
Took advantage of a mistake, like you said. And you like to see it for Buka just because he is not asked to be offensive very much in his play style. He does a lot of very dirty things for this team, not in terms of he's a dirty player, but he mucks it up. He gets in the middle. He defends well. He's asked to break up play from the other side, kind of be a compliment to Obi. And I think that he is excelling in that role far beyond what I would have expected in his first year at MLS. And it's cool to see a player like that get a reward. It's kind of like when Obi scores, it's like you don't ask him to do that, but it's neat when he does because it's a neat reward and a chance to celebrate with his teammates for a guy that, nobody comes up to him and lets him celebrate after a big dispossession or after a good tackle or after playing a guy to the outside and stopping a break. this is a cool moment for him, and I'm happy he got it. And otherwise, it was just a give that one the assist to the turf on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Pavel is kind of a like a MLS secondary assist, pass before the pass, involved in the buildup, a lot. So it's nice to see him just like, get honest to God on the score sheet.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to say about the play. I mean, it's kind of a bad giveaway from Yule, but you punished him. So
yeah,
that's what you want to see.
That was perfect. And finally, at that point, felt like, okay, we got one in. Hopefully this sort of breaks San Jose's spirit. That should be the end of this here. And yet, just a couple of minutes later, San Jose, with a nice attack, fires a shot. I forget who fires the shot. From outside of the box, Roman has to dive down to get this one. The ball is very weird here, and I'm willing to blame the field again for the ball not bouncing properly. I think on a normal field, this ball goes out of bounds. But on the field, on this field, it sort of like bounces straight up and down right by the end line instead of traveling where the momentum should be sending it. And it is just enough time for Lopez to pounce on it. Murphy is being reactive just by nature of trying to keep him offside, keeping that line up. It's a race to the weird rebound that is not going out of bounds, and Lopez wins. And sneaky difficult angle, I think, on this one, but does get this one over a diving Roman Celentano for the goal. It's a tough one to really criticize. I mean, I'm happy to say Roman should have jumped up faster, or Murphy should have been tracking this better, but this felt like a freak play.
It's hard to criticize Roman in this position. Like, if you want to say where the blame lies anywhere on this goal, it's that the original shot is pretty uncontested from the top of the 18. And, I don't remember who took it, but had a pretty good rip at it. It forced a diving save from Roman. And you are just at the mercy of the bounce in the field when the keeper can't actually corral the ball and lets it out for a rebound. And in this case, the rebound spills to a tough angle shot for, it was Hernan Lopez, I think, was the one that scores this one.
Yeah.
And, he plays a great shot. The angle is tight. He has a narrow window to work in, hits his spot directly. And yeah, it sucked because you did sort of get the feeling that once Buca scored that this game might open up, given how San Jose has collapsed at the end of these games. Mm-hmm. And it turns out we just had to wait a little longer for the collapse. But yeah, it felt very much in doubt after this one.
Yeah. The collapse was eventually coming. I don't know, Grayson, did you have anything else on the San Jose goal?
No. I mean, it sucks to get beat to a rebound like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Then about 10 minutes later or so, we end up with perhaps a season-defining moment of the game. Matt Miazga, chasing an attacker down 1v1, goes to ground to defend the expected shot or pass there. Sliding on the ground, collides with his, I forget which leg it is, right? I think it was his left leg. Collides with the goalpost. And the game has to be paused for quite a bit of time as he is assessed. Eventually, a stretcher is brought out, and he is carried off the field by 4 medical professionals. After the game, we got word that it was, quote, just a laceration, but that also he was at a local hospital to deal with that. It feels pretty dramatic for a cut. I don't know if anything else has come out in the, hour or so where I stopped paying attention before we hit record here.
So So the original report on this came from Laurel in the post-game press conference. I think she was a part of it. Like, it was in the media scrum that you get after this. And so her thing was, Matt Miazga has a laceration on his leg that should get stitched up. He's at a local hospital per FC Cincinnati coach Pat Noonan. She follows up that, I should add, that's the only update right now. More to come in the following days. So then that is followed up today by Pat Brennan, who, as we record this, it was earlier in the evening, per FCC, they are monitoring the situation. He was asked any word on Miazga from the Post's Abby Francis. Per FCC, they are monitoring the situation and will have further updates at tomorrow's pre-Philly news conference. Injury was described post-match by Pat Noonan as a laceration. I don't think that was definitive. So
I hate that, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? Like, monitoring isn't good. Like, you monitor, like, Iran's compliance with the nuclear deal. Like, you don't monitor, like, whether your center back has, like, a leg or not.
No.
But
somebody once said somebody on another podcast that I was listening to said that whenever a team says a player is going to be evaluated in 2 to 3 weeks, that doesn't mean they're not checking his medicals daily and checking progress daily. It just means that we are not going to tell you, the media, what's going on for 2 to 3 weeks. Like, don't ask us about it every day. We're not going to tell you anything. I'll
tell you this. I don't know. I have no way of verifying this, so I'm just passing along what I heard.
Rumors and hearsay. Good.
Yeah, this is rumors and hearsay. I don't want to be very clear. Like, I hate doing this, but I feel like my hand has been forced. I heard that he was spotted at CVG on crutches. That's not inconsistent with, I guess, getting stitches in your leg.
True.
But that's all I got.
I mean, it's probably good that he's not still in a San Jose hospital, that they don't think they can medically transport him or something.
Right. It's good he traveled, I would think.
So when they say we'll have an update, they're monitoring the situation and we'll have an update tomorrow. What that suggests to me is potentially they're going to have Pat Noonan or somebody official, as part of a media availability, break the news, no pun intended, that whatever the situation is might be serious enough that it needs to be said in person versus a text message to one reporter or a statement that's just being made. I hope not. I hope it is just a situation where, he had a bad laceration and they don't want him to be walking on it because he's got stitches now. That would be odd to me. The other possibility here is that, they want to get more checks done, a hairline fracture situation versus a compound fracture, which is where, you might want to be hospitalized or not traveling or not waiting until a bone is set. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I was a lot happier when it was he has a laceration and he's getting stitched up. And I wasn't as happy when it was there will be more tomorrow about this. I don't want there to be more tomorrow. I want this to remain just a laceration. More is not going to be good news. More is not going to be. It was a laceration, and it turns out he's just a big baby and could have used a Band-Aid, but insisted on going to the hospital.
There was an SNL skit recently when Kristen Wiig hosted, where she and another guy on the show played these parents, and they were like at bumper car or go-karts or something with their kids. And they're like, and the kid's like, oh, I had such a great day. And they're like, yeah, son, just enjoy the go-karts. Because after the go-karts, we're going to tell you something very bad. And he's like, no, tell me. They're like, no, just enjoy the go-karts, son.
No.
And then we'll tell you the bad thing. And then, it's like, I want to know the bad thing now.
Right. You've already told me it's out there, right? Yeah, it's a shame they didn't say, it's a laceration and we'll have even less tomorrow. you, as each day goes on, you will get less and less information.
Matt Miazga's leg is being amputated.
Or no,
we did get Paulo Dybala across the line.
Hey.
or no, the exact opposite. Not like his leg's being amputated. It's like, we got great news. We're not going to have to amputate the leg. More tomorrow.
We can confirm most of his leg is still intact. Like, whoa.
Or what if they said we have to amputate the leg, but he's getting a $6 million man leg?
Oh, the Blade Runner legs. I don't know if you can play soccer with those, but yeah, let's do it.
If he gets the $6 million man leg or the bionic leg, he immediately has to start taking PKs. Just because I think it'll be like one of those comical NES soccer games where it hits the goalie and pushes him back into the net.
Yes. Shaolin soccer style.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The announcement was last night. Matt Miazga has been taken to a local medical facility for a laceration. The good news is we can confirm he will still be able to play soccer at some point in his life when this is all done.
I'm going to say something.
We took Miazga to get to the hospital to get his leg looked at. It was a laceration. Unfortunately, he now has MRSA.
Yeah, right. He's got C. diff bad.
This also brings to mind, too, one of my favorite things about pro wrestling, and that's that at some point in the 1980s, there was an edict to stop saying when a wrestler got hurt in the ring, he gets beaten down and they take him out on the stretcher. That Vince McMahon told his announce teams to stop saying they went to the hospital because it was leading fans to go to the hospital to try and see if like everything was okay with the wrestler back when people still believed it was real. And so they would start to say he's been taken to a local medical facility. And that persists to this day. They will not say on a WWE broadcast that someone has been hospitalized or taken to the hospital. They're always transported to a local medical facility instead.
I like that. Take it to the nurse's office.
You know what they should do is they should just say that they can't provide any information because of HIPAA. They're like, this is private, personal, medical information. It's nobody's business.
Blame your woke elected
It's like
leaders.
your vaccination status. It's all HIPAA protected.
Yeah. Actually, it's a HIPAA violation to even ask.
It's
Pat
illegal
Brennan.
for you even to ask the question.
Yeah.
And,
Is your leg okay, Matt? That's a HIPAA violation. How dare you, sir?
Yeah. Eggshells over there in the journalists.
This sucks. Like this is this. Look,
get ready to learn Kip Keller, buddy.
Oh God,
we're in very safe hands. Do not worry. Kip Keller's got
we're not.
this.
What about legs? Are we in safe legs? Because if they're using their hands, that's a big problem for the team.
If he's using his legs to jump, we're in great heads. He's good at heading, is what I'm trying to say. He's better than Miazga at the aerial duel.
This is not a great bit of news when we're also talking about Miles Robinson being gone for like 2 months.
Yeah, and it sucks. But this is the deep spot on the team, right? This isn't why you thought Matt would be out, but they were planning for him to miss time probably anyway. So
yeah, just pretend he was called up. Yeah, exactly.
No, just pretend Matt fought a ref again.
Or like fired off another pizzagram to somebody.
It's more fun that way. This is a question I want to ask now, but I want to actually address it in part 2, which is if Miazga does miss, I'll just say an extended period of time, and given Kubo's form, does it change how you might want to use the DP spot? Is striker the immediate address? Now, again, we'll touch on this in part 2, but I think Kubo's being on fire changes some things in my mind anyway. So that happens in the 75th minute or the 64th minute, excuse me. He is then subbed out, give or take. I don't know if you guys also had this reaction. It was
the first person they showed warming up was Kubo to come in. And I was like, he said specifically he doesn't think he can play center back.
It's coming.
But he also said if the coach puts him there, of course he will play it.
He will.
Right. It brought to mind a terrifying possibility that Pat Noonan was listening to the postcast on his drive into Mercy Health on Friday. And when he heard that, his only words were, bet.
Yeah, right. I will find a way to make him center back. No, it was Kep Keller that did come in. Yuya Kubo comes in for Sergio Santos, which, I mean, Santos had one real bad giveaway, but other than that, I think he was fine.
Fine.
It is night and day, though, from when Kubo comes in. It is clear that Kubo has a chemistry with Lucho that nobody else on this team really does. Kelsey's kind of getting there. Orishano is kind of there. But man, Kubo and Acosta are best friends as far as I can tell. Is the polar opposite, I will say, of whatever was going on between Acosta and Bupenza. Okay, just inverse that. It is what it looks like Kubo and Acosta have.
Yeah, the friendship level is high between those two individuals. And it's almost comical how... So Kubo comes into this game and immediately the back line of FC Cincinnati looks more threatening. Now, unfortunately, he comes on in the 64th minute. San Jose scores in the 72nd minute. I think 72nd minute. Espinoza in the 72nd.
Yeah. Yep. Just works Ian Murphy. It's bad.
Oh, it's bad. But, you know, there was punctuated moments of San Jose looking threatening in the second half. Not nearly as much as there was in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
But like they made a lot of the opportunities that they had. They got a real good, strong run of set pieces that kept FC Cincinnati under some threat. They score, and you're thinking they're going to drop points on the West Coast to a really, really dog shit team. Yeah. But almost immediately after that, Kubo was like, not on my watch, they're not. And immediately started doing something that we didn't see, that I've been begging for Santos to do forever. And that's to try and slip in behind the defense. To do something to make yourself available running at goal for Lucho to find you with those little through passes. And they just they carved San Jose up with these little runs in transition. They've got nobody else on the team that does this other than Kubo.
How do they keep getting so many counters after San Jose went up?
The obvious answer is San Jose is really bad.
It's like, San Jose, you are a terrible team.
Right.
How are you giving up 3 goals in the last 25 minutes of the game in essentially like all counterattacking opportunities when you're winning?
So to start Kubo's first goal, they basically have, I'm going to count it as 4 guys in our box. Why? You're winning 2-1 with 13 minutes left in the game.
They have 7 guys in the attacking third.
Yeah.
Goal with like 15 minutes to play.
I'm watching the replay right now. They literally have 7 guys in the attacking third.
And it's 1 clearance to Kelsey. Kelsey beats 1 man, and it is done. And that's it. Kelsey with a little dribble gets it to Lucho. Lucho with, I don't know how he does this. It looks like a Nick Hagglund pass, like one of those where it's like he looks barely in control of his body, but it is inch perfect to what Kubo needs. He's got him going at a dead sprint at goal. And
it's not
by
Kelsey,
the way,
it's Dotto.
Oh, is it Dotto who beats the guy? You'd think I could tell the two apart.
Yeah, they look so much alike.
Yeah, it's Dotto who finds Lucho, and Lucho finds Kubo.
And Kubo with just a...
Yes.
It's funny how earlier in the year, when Kubo was... It goes back to this idea...
San Jose's got 1 man back. What are they doing?
And Yarbrough is way out. Like, I think he was going to charge at Kubo. I don't know what his plan was.
I genuinely believe this. I was looking earlier today. Kubo has now played more minutes this year, or close to as many minutes this year as he played in all of 2023.
Wow.
And the majority of those minutes he played last year were in the midfield. Like, he played most of his minutes in the midfield. I think it was kind of like learning to speak, like remembering how to speak a foreign language that you haven't spoken in a long time. I think he had to reteach his brain to speak striker, because earlier in the year, we were saying it on this show, Kubo was getting into dangerous positions, but the finishing product wasn't there. that he was being wasteful with opportunities. He missed a couple of shots high, a couple of shots wide. He couldn't pull the trigger on a couple of them. I think that was like his brain stuttering and forgetting who he was on the field, because it was night and day in this game where I understand San Jose isn't great, but the move he makes to score this first goal, where the defender has inside position, the defender is forcing him to the outside, but under control with the ball, pulls the ball back inside to create a shooting lane for himself, and then calmly slots it past the keeper when the defender had the inside position until he made that quick little movement in the box. That's elite level striking stuff right there. I don't think he was capable of that earlier in the year because he'd forgotten how to do it.
This is a really nice ball out of the box from Yedlin too, by the way. I just want to shout that out.
Yeah, I'm
like
also
Keller disrupts the play. Yedlin finds Dotto. Like it's a nice it's a nice quick sequence. It's very, very well played by FC Cincinnati.
I'll also say Kubo has a pretty open Yamil Assad and still takes it. And I love to see a little bit of that selfishness coming back that you need as a striker. Love that for Kubo. And I will say, Chief, to your exact point, if I could just for a moment say, this is why
Assad would walk this ball into the goal.
Yeah, probably.
But then we're not talking about the post-cast bump.
No. I want Kubo to get the goal. No offense to Assad, but I want Kubo to get the goal. This is like
Baji being open on Lucha's goal of the year last year. It's like, but it's better this way. No, but this is why expected goal is a thing, that you want a striker who is constantly getting in good positions, and sure, they're not all going to land, but it is the marker of a player who is poised for a breakout. And that was Kubo at the beginning of this year, that he was in the right positions. He was getting those shots. I do think that there is a general, I think, healthy skepticism of XG these days. But this is kind of like the exact use case of, hey, this guy is capable of getting in these positions. Keep giving him minutes and you will be rewarded.
And boy, were they ever rewarded, because speaking of minutes,
it is not long after.
We're all tied up and you're thinking to yourself, all right, maybe we're coming out of here with a point thanks to Yuya. I was already ready to give it the post-cast bump off that one goal. I was ready to be like, look, I was ready to take my victory lap right then.
Yeah, I already had a healthy bump.
Yeah. Doctor, it's lasted longer than 5 hours.
Or barely 5 minutes in this case, because it is Kubo once again.
2 minutes later?
Yeah.
2 minutes, just a minute later, kind of. But yeah.
Now, I've watched the highlight here. I don't know if this is off of a counterattack. San Jose does look to be slightly more prepared to play defense at the start of this clip here. But it is Lucho, and to me, Kubo does a good job of cleaning this one up and getting the goal. But the story of this goal is Lucho dancing around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders inside of the box. There is nothing that these guys can do that can slow him down.
But it's a striker play for Kubo to get to the ball there.
It is.
That's a striker play.
Oh, it's perfect. And it's honestly something that, if Bupensa was better at, I don't think that we would be halfway giddy about him being shipped out. Yeah, right.
But no, if the first goal was a Aaron Bupensa type goal or a Lucho type goal, the second goal was a Brandon Vasquez goal.
Yeah.
When he was at his best, where it was, you know what? He has the striker's nose for which direction the run of play is going to find. He gets out of Lucho's way, which is tremendously important because it opens some space for, I think, there's an interplay between Lucho and I think Kevin Kelsey in the box.
Dotto.
Once again, Dotto.
Who can say?
So again, you're finding yourself a little interplay there. Lucho, Dotto, and then Kubo is there to clean up. And yeah, that's again, it's remembering who you are. It's remembering this is Obi-Wan Kenobi remembering how to use the Force in Kenobi. It's like he would forget that for some reason because of great writing. But yeah, like this is a striker's goal right here. So he scores a Lucho goal, he scores a Brandon Vasquez goal, and then you're thinking to yourself, this is incredible. I can't imagine how this could be cooler for Yuya in this opportunity that he has received after being on the postcast. And somehow
7
he
minutes
decides
later,
to score himself another goal of a completely different style.
Caps it off, the hat trick. I will say on this one, it is once again, for some damn reason. I mean, sure, you're losing now, but San Jose charging ahead, and it is a perfect breakup and clearance by DeAndre Yedlin, finds Obi. Obi runs it up the field, finds Lucho. Lucho with just the last second perfectly timed pass to get Kubo while he is still just barely onside. And we can say without guilt that he is in fact onside because Jonah drew the lines for us. I was curious if this one was actually closer than it was. And Kubo, I'm pretty sure, nutmegs Yarborough on this one. And it is 4-2.
I think he nutmegs
FCC.
somebody on all 3 goals.
Does he really?
I think he nutmegs the second one. I can't really tell, but I think he nutmegs the defender on the first one.
Wow. I didn't even see that. So good. He's got his confidence back. How?
I would say that the video evidence is inconclusive on the second one, so
I'm going to presume
it's
the
not
nutmeg.
clear and obvious that my initial thought that it was a nutmeg was wrong. So we're going to stick with the nutmeg.
Call on the field stands.
It
Process.
stays with it.
Can we talk about just how sexy the first touch is that Kubo takes on this pass from Lucho? It is a perfectly weighted pass, but how often have you seen a pass like that Lucho has made to someone where the ball gets donkey-footed 5 feet in front of the attacker and they can't regain control of it in time to do something, or it gives the keeper the opportunity to go out there and get the ball? It is a perfect first touch off this pass from Kubo. The ball looks stuck to his foot. It's unbelievable.
If you asked Lucho who the best player on the team was other than him, he would say Kubo, right?
I think Kubo kind of implied that in the interview.
I think Kubo implied that, yeah.
When they said, if Lucho picked the team, would you be on that? And there was no hesitation.
Of course,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've in fact talked about this, that it would be a lot cooler if we could pick our own teams, because I'd pick you and you'd pick me, right?
I do like, just again going back to the body language analysis here. After the second goal, Kubo runs over and picks up Lucho. After the third goal, Obi runs over and picks up Kubo, and then hugs Lucho. It is just pure joy with these guys. This is so much fun to watch this go down this way. 4-2 ends up being the final. And yeah,
and he almost had a fourth. Like,
yes,
he was within an inch of getting his head to a ball and almost scored a fourth fucking goal. The man got guac on his burrito. That's the only explanation, other than the postcast bump.
I mean, at the end of the day, he is
Carter. Get me his order. Stat.
We need the order. We need the order. We let the fan base down by not getting.
No, I've spent an entire drive back from South Carolina mad at myself that I didn't ask that question.
Well, and then my wife yelled at me for not figuring out which Japanese restaurant he may have been referring to. So
yeah, I'm glad we didn't ask that, because I want to respect the man's privacy in terms of like where he truly feels at home when it comes to cuisine.
I also don't want to step into some politics thing. Like maybe he goes to a couple.
He goes to a Korean
I don't want to make
restaurant.
him like a pariah in the local Japanese community.
Yeah. So, well done to Yuya Kubo. But no, this man he was a very successful striker and winger, attacker in Europe before coming to the United States. He has been the ultimate team player for this team and has seen literally this team finish in dead last and has seen this team finish in first place. It is exciting to see him finally fulfill his role and the vision that was maybe half-assed laid out back in 2020. I'm not going to give Nightcamp too much credit here, but it is pretty cool.
Hold on, fuck that. Nightcamp stood by and let Yapstam play this guy as a defensive mid.
Yeah.
At some
when
point,
the team couldn't score any goals.
Yeah. When this team was dog water.
And it's not like Brandon was playing striker. They weren't playing Brandon up there.
No. You get no credit. You get no credit for identifying this player and then proceeding to allow him to be grossly misused for the overwhelming time that he was in your care as a general manager and as a coaching staff and as a sporting organization. You took a player like this with natural instincts to score and we're like, hey, you know what would be really cool if you never did that? The one thing you're good at, the one thing you like doing, the thing that made you money and put you on our radar to begin with. Now, we're not going to have you do that. No, you get no credit for this. None. Zero.
I was going to try to look it up real quick. Did Yuya Kubo score in his debut against New York Red Bulls in 2020?
I think he scored. No, he did not score against Red Bulls. He scored against Atlanta. And then he scored against Red Bulls during.
No, I think he scored. Wasn't Red
MLS
Bulls like the
is
last?
Back.
No, wasn't Red Bulls the last game we played before COVID? He scored like a laser blast. Like he hit something from way outside.
He scored. I think that was in MLS's back. Lecadia scored against Red Bulls.
That's what it was. Lecadia scored in his debut.
Pre-COVID, the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Lecadia scored in his debut.
Kubo scored against Atlanta United in his second match for FC Cincinnati. But I remember coming away from that Red Bull game thinking, wow, Kubo's really good. This is going to be fun. So, damn.
Also,
yeah, sorry.
It's, you talked about night camp, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Matilda, right? Like, do you give Matilda's parents credit?
Nature or nurture, I think you have to give them credit.
But something I noticed is that the most goals that Kubo has scored in a first division league, I'm not talking about all comps.
Yeah.
In a league is 9, which he did for young boys. And he's just sitting on 7 in 15 games played. Really want him to get to that double digits this year.
Yeah. I think he's going to do it.
I think he's clearly on pace to do it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really nice for him and, for us as fans who have been, not just supporting the team, but like I've been a Kubo fan. I mean, you can see that he's very nice with it. So it's just would be a nice achievement, right? To see him get there.
Yeah.
Right after signing that, new contract.
It would be very nice. This does lead us nicely into part 2 because I do think his playing time could get complicated if FC Cincinnati does go out and make a very large, splashy signing with the general assumption that they want to continue to give Kevin Kelsey minutes because they intend to purchase him down the line, or I should say buy his rights to his labor, excuse me.
So let's go to part 2.
Yeah. But hey, I will say just briefly, FC Cincinnati finishes second in the East at the end of the match week. They are 2 games in hand on Inter Miami, but only 2 points behind. That is good. And Inter Miami, we'll touch on that in part 3. So let's go over to part 2.
I know I said that, but also one thing to keep an eye on now with this win, I believe this is the FC's 7th road win of the season. They're
pretty good.
They're creeping up on the MLS all-time record for most road wins in a season,
which is 13.
I believe so.
Well, that feels premature to talk about that.
No, but I mean, like they're well on pace.
Yeah,
they could. Keep an eye on this.
Yep. And the last thing I'll mention is points per game wise. FCC right now has a better points per game number than the entirety of the 2023 campaign ended up. Now, I will say 2023 had a hotter start than we had so far this year, but overall pace looking pretty good. Okay, let's touch on transfer questions, big names, etc. in part 2, which is coming up like right now. Before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our sponsor, Cincy Shirts, which is now the home of official Cincy Postcast merch. This is so exciting, and we really never thought we'd see the day, and yet here we are, alive and actually seeing the day. Cincy Shirts has been with FC Cincinnati from the beginning. They've been with the Post for ever now, from the beginning, our very first sponsor. So happy to have them along for this journey. There are 6, count them, 6 different shirts available at this time of recording that you can purchase from their website for real life. This is, again, a real thing that you can do. As I'm sure you know, but I will remind you, they have 3 retail locations, including Fort Mitchell, Loveland, and Oakley Hyde Park, where in those locations they can print on demand. If they don't have the size of something you want, you can print on demand. I assume this means postcast shirts as well. Give it a shot. Let me know how that goes. If for some reason you do not want to purchase one of our shirts, I won't hold it against you. You can use promo code ThePostCincy. That's all one word, all caps, ThePostCincy, for 10% off your next order. This also works with Postcast shirts, so please don't pay full price. Make sure you knock 10% off for yourself on that one. Spread the code far and wide, I guess, and let them know about Cincy shirts and let them know about the podcast while you're at it. Otherwise, the code doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode and so many before it. And if I do see you out there with a t-shirt, I will be embarrassed for you, but I will probably give you a high five and tell you well done. So again, thank you to Cincy Shirts. Thank you to you for buying shirts and using that promo code. All right, and we are back, and we are going to talk some transfer rumors. How should we? I don't. Chief,
So,
what's going on?
Let's table set.
Yeah. All right, so let's set this up. So, what we're going to do, I guess, in this segment, we talked about this before we started recording, is there is a lot being said in a lot of different places, and you would be forgiven for not having the bandwidth to be everywhere to put all the rumors that have been swirling into one location. So I think the level set here is sort of where things are from various sources. So the general consensus, and Kevin and I touched on this a little bit in the episode the clip went a little, it broke contain, like we like to say. It broke out of the little bubble that the postcast operates in and ruffled some feathers with this idea that there is consistent chatter that FC Cincinnati is looking to be active in a very large way this summer. So where that begins is with Aaron Bupenza, because as longtime listeners of the postcast know, and who have listened to Grayson talk on this subject, you get 3 designated players in MLS. Those are players you can spend any amount of money on. Yeah, money is no object. You're limited only by owner ambition as to how much you want to pay for one of these players that you sign. The FC has 3 designated players on roster: Lucho Acosta, Obina Wobodo, and Aaron Bupenza. In order to make a move that would be a large-scale move, they are going to have to move out a designated player. The other thing they may have the ability to do is at some point, we are anticipating that whatever rule changes have been talked about to add U22 players, there may be, if those are passed in time or those are voted on or whatever the timetable for those are, there may be an opportunity to add U22 players. There may be the opportunity for the FC to add as many as 2 more U22 players, given that they only have 1 on their roster already, Kevin Kelsey.
Yeah.
This would open up 2 additional spots for that. But just tabling that for a second. The first part of all these rumors is Aaron Bupenza. So this is the worst kept secret, I think, of everything we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Tom Bogert on MLS Extra Time, along with Andrew Wiebe, have both openly stated that they expect Aaron Bupenza to be moved in this transfer window. The transfer window opens around the start of July. You're hearing moves now at various places because teams can make moves in anticipation of the window opening. So really at any point between now and August, there will be an opportunity to move Aaron Bupenza. Bogert has said this is happening. Wiebe has said this is happening. Pat Brennan has said that he expects this to happen. I think even Tommy G has said as recently as the last broadcast that Aaron Bupenza is in the shopping window right now.
Yeah.
The general consensus when you listen to all of these various groups is that they're going to take a loss on Aaron Bupenza to move him. I think they spent $7 million to acquire Bupenza. They are not going to get $7 million back. But to be fair, Bupenza was not an investment purchase. It was a win now purchase. There wasn't a strong speculation, I don't think, by anyone that they were going to make money on the Aaron Bupenza deal. The rumor is that he's being shopped to Turkey. I think Galatasaray has had some feelers out to him, which is a massive club in the Turkish Super League. He's well regarded in that league. He's played well in that league before. So that's part one to this, is that I think that from all corners, the word out there is that Aaron Bupenza is probably on his way out of FC Cincinnati sooner rather than later. You may see him get a run, I think, in an upcoming game, maybe as soon as this Wednesday with Philly, but that's more of a proof of life thing. Just getting him on the field to show a prospective team he's fine, he can move, he hasn't gained 30 pounds while his jaw was wired shut or anything like that, that we know of, and just an opportunity to show that he can still play soccer to a potential buyer, because they're not going to, this doesn't work like the NFL. They don't fly you out for medicals ahead of negotiating for a deal. Like, they negotiate the deal. Once that's done, you go in for your medicals after that. But they've got to show something to get the offers coming in, I would think. The second part of this is the idea that there's going to be a big move to replace Aaron Bupenza.
Yeah.
Taylor Twellman yesterday on MLS 360, I believe, or the MLS pre-show on Apple TV, I don't know what they call that, said that he is hearing that FC Cincinnati is gearing up for a massive signing, a big signing. That also comports to what's been said in other locations, with Pat Noonan telling the Apple TV announcers in their coaches meeting that the team intends to be very active this summer. All of this collectively has led, I think, everyone that follows this team to conclude that something big is up with the FC. And this isn't going to be potentially another Aaron Bupenza like-for-like replacement, but that this may be gearing up to be something bigger. And I guess what I'll open the floor to everybody else with that level set. What do we think is going on that's bigger? Did I miss something in the recap, Kevin?
No, the only thing I would just put a slight clarification on is the phrasing that Twellman apparently used the phrase signing a big name. So
he didn't just say that. He said, I know for a fact FC Cincinnati is on the verge of signing a big name.
So
that is the quote.
So for me, a Aaron Bupenza type signing is a big signing. $7 million for a striker is in the top half of MLS moves. He's not a big name signing. You would be kidding yourself if you thought more than 2% of the FCC fan base could have named Aaron Bupenza or could tell you what league he was playing in, even if they had heard of him. A name implies like the celebrity-esque, footballer, the name that is, going to be on the minds or known by 90% of the fan base when he walks out onto the stadium for the first time. This is not a Kevin Kelsey, Obina situation. This is more than that. And that's what makes speculating about this fun and feel ridiculous, because what is a big name? I feel like is ultimately going to be the argument here.
I mean, I think big name is, like, for me, big name is like world soccer big name.
Yep.
Okay. Like some big names that have signed to MLS in the last 2 years. Obviously Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba. I keep wanting to say Griezmann, but I don't think Griezmann is like officially signed anywhere.
Luis
Suarez, Olivier Giroud. I think Marco Reus is impending, if not confirmed. Lloris.
Chucky Lozano in San Diego. Yeah.
I feel like Chucky Lozano, Emil Forsberg, like these guys are big signings. I don't think they're big names.
Lozano is funny. In Mexico, he has a stature that is very different than.
But that's interesting because then you talk about, okay, well, like if we're going to say situationally or like regionally big names, that opens it up to like, to the folks on MLS Extra Time. Josh Sargent would be a big name, right? Maybe like Mark McKenzie would be a big name. Nobody else comes to Christian Pulisic. Would be a big name. Christian Pulisic, I think, of those guys, probably of any American is the closest to big name. I mean, you're talking about like played for Chelsea, won Champions League, was Milan's arguably best player this last season. So like he's probably the closest of any American to like quote unquote big name. Mm-hmm. But if you pull American off of him, I would say that would be a great signing in the league. I would say that's not a big name.
Yeah.
And this is not a very well drafted line here, but it's kind of like you tell me a name, I will tell you yes or no. Right?
Yeah, I know when I know a big name when I see a big name. And to me, there's only like 40 big names in world soccer. And I think once you get beyond 40, you're really talking about you're either a fan of the team, the club team that he plays on, or you're a fan of the national team, you're a member of the nationality that he's associated with. That's the reason why you know the name. Like, there's a lot of U.S. men's national team players that are big names, quote unquote, but it's only because we're Americans and we watch the national team. They're otherwise nobodies when it comes to world soccer, most of these people. They wouldn't be a big name in the UK. Half the teams in the major European leagues would go into open revolt if their teams signed an American of any type, much less,
Right. I mean, it's like most American players are like, I don't know, Gardner Minshew or like Tyler Boyd or something, right? Like these are not.
And then Christian Pulisic is Kirk Cousins. It's like,
if even that, like
if even that, maybe it's Daniel Jones. I don't know.
He does have a Danny Dimes vibe about him. Just the awkwardness when he runs.
Yeah. So like there have been a couple of. Chief is going to disagree, but there have been a couple of big names who've been linked to MLS recently. Griezmann is like kind of always perpetually linked. Mm-hmm. I would say that's a big name. Mauro Icardi has been linked to MLS.
Not a big name.
Man, you got to be like.
But in Italy, that's a massive name. You got to be kind
of an Italian football nerd, right? To
that doesn't
think that's a big name.
When I think of big name, especially like the way I want to phrase it for like, so that, because I'm going to get attacked here on this shortly in my definition, a big name is someone where this person's going to move jerseys in the United States the day he's signed, not in Italy, not in some other country, where it's like this person's going to move merch in the US. And I don't think that, I barely even think Griezmann is that. I will begrudgingly grant you Griezmann as a name. I don't think anyone is signing up for Apple TV to watch Griezmann in MLS. And I think that's like sort of almost the demarcation point for big name for me.
I think the other guy I was going to mention of like international player, big name, I think Dybala is probably like the line of demarcation of like who's a big name.
Yeah.
You're talking about somebody who was like a huge talent, big money move, star player, Argentinian World Cup winner. if not for Messi, he probably would be of even bigger stature because he probably steps into a very central role for the Argentinian national team.
Yep.
And they still maybe win the World Cup.
Yeah,
This
he's
last
very
time
good.
with him in that role. I mean, he's very, very good. But just by feel, that feels like the line, right? Like that feels like the least big name that you could sign, and to me, get away with, calling it a big name.
So this is where I will throw a name out there because he has been linked by some very fringe...
Was it a name I said or a name I very pointedly did not say?
I'm going to say it's probably a name you did not say. Well,
you just
okay.
want to make me mad.
No.
Is what we're going to do this for.
We're going to say the name. Say the name, Kevin.
Well, let me ask you
Kevin,
this.
say the name.
Before we get to that, so I've been looking at like the best, players in the big 5 leagues or whatever is like potentially those. I thought it might actually make more sense given that like Bupenza was brought out of Middle Eastern League that he was clearly not so keen on staying in. Would like Neymar or Benzema rise to the level of big name for you,
Yes.
given that they're...
Yeah.
Neymar, absolutely.
Benzema, I think also yes.
Benzema, yes, as well. Neymar,
although you were talking with Benzema especially, you were talking like this is aging star territory.
Yes. Yeah. Similarly, how do you feel? I feel like this guy sits on the Dybala line as well. Riyad Mahrez.
No, not a
Long
name.
Premier League career. Leicester City, Manchester City.
Yeah, he like kind of struggled to like incorporate at Man City. He was good. He was good for sure at times, but like
it was like their cup ringer or something. Like,
he was like a star at Leicester, and it really feels like his star waned once he got in the mix with all of the other people they have at Man City.
Right. Which you could be forgiven for getting lost in that shuffle.
Sure.
Every single player on that team would be the best player on virtually any other team on planet Earth. I think those are interesting. Well, I don't know. Do we give credence to these? Okay.
To what? To credence to what? To the big name and stuff? I'm just saying, so here's where I am on the big name thing, and then we can talk about the other thing.
Yeah.
On the big name thing, I think that if you have like people like Tommy G messaging for you publicly, if you got Noonan talking to the announcers publicly, you got Taylor Twellman, who we know is close to high level members of the FC Cincinnati staff. You have him saying big name. It really feels like there's been a concerted effort to like put out the red carpet for what they're about to do. And if you don't deliver, it like kind of unfairly tarnishes your like secondary signing. Like we've said before that there's like a bunch of guys around the world who are of like Bupenza's level, right?
Yeah.
Who would be like really good signings and help the team. But if you're doing all of this, you can't then sign one of those guys, right? You have to sign...
Yeah.
You have to deliver. And if you don't, like, what are you doing? You just blowing smoke for no reason?
Yeah. You don't have to do this. You don't have to crank the hype up and ratchet the hype up. If you're going to do this and you're going to let people know and you're going to have surrogates out there, and believe me,
I would say Taylor Twellman is a surrogate.
Yeah. No, the only reason I was about to say, the only reason Taylor Twellman is talking about this is he's been told that this is the case and you are okay saying this. I
like him risking a childhood friendship just to overhype the next 29-year-old out of Peru or something.
Right. But you better here's the deal. You better deliver.
They just trade for Rui Diaz.
It's Jordan Morris.
Chief might quit, actually.
I might be.
That would be the funniest thing they could do.
That would be.
It's a pretty big name.
For Jordan Morris.
They trade Yuya Kubo for Jordan Morris.
Yeah, I have to watch this human rectangle run around. You got to deliver. And if you don't, and it's some dipshit who's playing for a mid-table team in Serie A, and it's like, oh, this is a big signing. You don't understand. No one like this player has come to MLS in years. Look at his talent. It's like, no, I don't want to buy this guy's jersey. That's not a big name. There's a difference between saying that this is a big player, a big talent, and a big name. If you're promising a big name, that says something. And cool, just don't whiff if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think back to like the last two big striker signings, Bupenza and Brenner. Brenner was hyped. Brenner was a youth prospect out of South America. The team put the, announcement graphic that The Athletic weirdly had 3 different writers contribute to tearing it apart. But, all the big clubs in Europe that he didn't sign for. Because...
I think we nailed that article, by the way.
Yes.
Like, I think that article was one of the worst pieces of journalism I've seen in American soccer. And we tore it apart pretty hard. And I think we hit the bullseye on that one. But
I know we did because one of the writers told me as much. So, but Brenner was hyped, and I think rightfully so. MLS did not have a lot of signings out of Brazil. MLS has gone and taken talent out of every other South American country except for that. And then Bupenza was not hyped. Bupenza was we need a win now, somebody who can immediately join this team and be an immediate contributor. And he was, we can imagine a better way of this story going, but ultimately this team won a supporter shield and he scored some pretty key goals along the way there. Mission accomplished. It's unfortunate it hasn't panned out all the way through, but he also wasn't incredibly hyped, even though he's a pretty big number. So, Chief, let me ask you this. On the Paulo Dybala line, where does Gio Reyna sit for you? Above or below the line?
Put it this way. You have to dig down so far to find Gio Reyna's name below this line that you may well be hitting the molten core of the fucking planet. Look.
I think that's a bit dramatic.
No, you know what? No, I said this on the Discord. I'm going to stand by this. I think that it is among the dumbest thing an MLS team can do to use a designated player spot on an American. I'm sorry.
Now, hold on.
Like, the purpose of the DP spot is to overpay for talent that otherwise wouldn't come to a league like MLS. And most of these guys want to come home eventually to the US anyway. The purpose of the DP spot is a big foreign talent that you're prying them away from places they would rather be. You're prying them away from places that are closer to home. You're prying them away from playing for their home country's league, for playing in Champions League. That's the purpose of the DP spot. There's no one on the men's national team that is worth a designated player contract.
That's the only one that true.
The only one that you can make the only one you can make an argument for is Christian Pulisic.
Christian would be. I don't know if you can name like 5 players in the league who are better than Christian right now. Like when I think about who the best player in the league is, who's not an FC Cincinnati and isn't Messi.
Yeah.
My head always goes to Denny Bouanga.
Denny Bouanga, maybe Hani Mukhtar, right?
Christian is a way better player than either of those guys.
It's
not even arguable.
Yeah, and I watched him at Chelsea. You know where he spent the majority of his time? In the training room.
That's fine because he's playing against Premier League defenders. Now put him against Nick Hagland.
You know where else he spent time? Scoring goals in the fucking Champions League semifinal against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Like this is somebody who, yeah, he's been injured a bit and his career hasn't been as smooth as everybody maybe would have hoped, but he is a difference maker in any league in the world. And this is not where I want the conversation to go because I just think it's preposterous. But just to wrap up, like to stoop that one little point, Landon Donovan, pretty good DP signing. Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore, they were pretty good DP signings when they came over.
Clint Dempsey, pretty good.
Clint Dempsey, pretty good DP signings. These are teams that won hardware signing Americans to DP contracts.
It was also a different league back then. And
fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think it's funny that we're talking about Gio Reyna because his name it's out there.
It is out
in the
there.
fan base. I think it's funny because a couple weeks ago, I kind of made it up in our group chat. like I didn't make it, like me making it up is not what caused the name to be out there. I'd be very clear on that. But it's kind of been something that we've been joking about in the group chat based on mostly nothing. Right, just based on who in the men's national team needs a change of scenery.
There's enough extra things you can piece together where you could say he's clearly not getting along at Dortmund. It didn't pan out in England. There aren't a lot of places that would take him. Dortmund clearly don't want him. He is incredibly talented. He is respected.
He keeps
getting run out of places, and he can't find minutes in the national team.
Tournament he won the player of the tournament at the Nations League.
That's pretty good.
I bet if you looked it up, he's got to be like one of the most goal plus assist players in the Nations League. He's scored goals against top teams for the U.S. men's national team. He always looks dangerous when he's out there, and he's not a big name.
Yeah,
he is not a big name.
No, he's not a big name. Also, hold on. How's the national team doing lately? How's the national team doing?
Hold on. If Taylor Twellman came out and said FC Cincinnati is going to meme the hell out of their next signing, or FC Cincinnati is going to troll the worst people on Twitter with their next signing, I would say yes, Gio Reyna fits the bill. It would reverberate around the league because of people's overlap with like men's national team fandom. I would like the part where it pisses off a lot of men's national team fans who would lose their mind wetting themselves over Reyna coming to MLS. But not a big signing, not something you need to spend weeks setting the table to prepare people hang on for it to happen. I'm sorry. If Gio Reyna was not a big name, you've been gassing it up for really unjustified reasons.
So this is the thing though. I think
he'd be really good in the league. I think he'd be great in the team.
That's what I want to zero in on for just a second.
Not a big name.
He's not a big name, but is he a big signing?
Let's sign more people from a national team that's fucking dysfunctional.
We've already distinguished big name from big signing.
I understand, but now I'm just curious if you guys see this as a big signing because I
don't.
Okay, that's what I thought was happening.
I think it's silly to say not a big signing. I mean, is it the signing that you want?
He's a good player on a mid-national team that's being run out of every club that he's played at. His parents were an utter distraction to the functioning of the team.
His parents are a genuine concern here.
Yeah, that required an investigation that set back the national team on a coaching search that went nowhere. Again, he can't find playing time anywhere in the world. And what are we hanging our hat on? That he's a good player on a grossly underperforming national team? Really? That's where we're at in terms of this is a great signing? So
I do think the big name.
Let's not get a far afield from what the signing hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But angry. I'm so angry at the thought that we would use a DP spot on a player like Gio Reyna.
What I am comfortable saying right now, not a big name.
Okay. So this is another thing I want to touch on, though, is that like by the definition laid out here, maybe 10 players on planet Earth are a big name. So I asked old ChatGPT to spit out the 30 best under 30 players in European soccer as of 2024. Old Gio comes in at number 23 for what it's worth.
This is why you can't trust AI.
Agreed. But let me ask you about the
third best player in Europe.
Under the age of 30.
23rd best player in the country.
I agree. But I want to ask you about the players above and below. Would Gavi be a big signing? 19-year-old playing for Barcelona? I suspect not a big name. That's a huge signing. If FCC were to sign a 19-year-old player like that.
a 19 player that's like in Barcelona's plans. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big signing.
That's a huge signing.
Okay. And then let me ask you similarly, 25 years old, Declan Rice. Is he a big name? Starter for Arsenal? Who hasn't started? Justin Hoyt started for Arsenal.
All right. This is where it gets weird, though, because Declan Rice is worth so much more to MLS for the same reason Harry Kane is, and that's that they can do media in English natively, and there is no language barrier.
You're never going to guess what language Gio speaks.
But he's also not good. He's not good. He's not Declan Rice.
He's not Declan Rice.
Declan Rice is like stuck in the Premier League. It's like really good.
I'll throw another one out at you. Darwin Núñez, sure, starting striker for Liverpool. Big name?
That's a big name.
That's a big name.
Okay. I just want to make sure we got our bearings straight here. So,
buddy, if we get Darwin Núñez, we better clear out space in the trophy case. We're winning everything this year.
The Gio signing, I will say.
No, don't talk about it like. Don't say that. Say theoretical. You're making me mad when
the hypothetical Gio.
We're
gonna fuck around and meme this into existence, and I'm gonna be angry this entire time because we haven't even gotten to the part where he's a 10. Like you're signing the guy that I want Lucho to replace on the national team.
Yes. Okay. So this is all hypothetical, but I will just say that like clearly a lot of the other stuff makes sense to add him on here. But I do think, and this is a point that Grayson has brought up before in the Discord, is that like the way for Reyna to get on the field with Pulisic is to be a second striker, to basically be the Clint Dempsey up top to whoever it is, the Josie Altidore, right? Whether that's Haji Wright or Brandon Vasquez or Josh Sargent, but it's to be a second 10, a false 9, as it were, up there. And that's exactly the role he could play off of Kelsey or maybe even Kubo at this point with Lucho behind him. It makes sense if he wants national team, minutes. He needs club minutes. And if he sees himself as being somebody who plays in Europe and plays for a big European team, getting a half season in MLS, a league that has consistently exported talent to Europe and directly to some of the biggest leagues in Europe, it's not the worst league in the world to go be a star player in and prove to Udinese that you can be their starting striker, right? Like it makes sense on some level.
You're just trying to piss me off.
I will say I am the number one Gio hater. So this is killing me to say all of this, but at the idea that he may be joining my team, I've never seen a better youth prospect.
If you take the parents out of it, which is very, very hard because what his parents did is heinous.
And his dad seemed to have forced the move to Nottingham Forest.
By all accounts, they've only become like more involved in his career since then. Because I think he fired Wasserman.
He did.
So, I mean, okay. But
and you can play up the U.S. men's national team connections, but like Berhalter and them were tight. And they burned that bridge to a crisp. So,
but if you take that baggage out of it, it'd be pretty similar to like the Ricky Puig signing for LA Galaxy, Yeah. And it's almost damn near carbon copy of like Landon Donovan going to MLS after not getting any time really at Leverkusen at the age and the stature with the national team and all that. So like, it wouldn't be by any means an unprecedented move for a player at that age, at that level, struggling to break in at Europe, but still a highly regarded talent. And so like, it's hard for me to say that it would be a bad signing and I think he would do well in MLS if the personal doesn't get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just coming back to not a big name.
If he wasn't American, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Right. And people there would be active anger in the fan base that we were thinking about buying a player who's been a falling star his entire career, his entire club career.
He's only 21 years old. I do want to point that out. He's still fairly young, even from a European perspective. I'm only throwing this name out there because it is on this AI-generated list, and it's funny to think about. Is Alphonso Davies a big name?
In this league?
I mean,
Alphonso Davies is about to sign Real Madrid. I think
Alphonso Davies would really like to sign for Real Madrid.
He's been a world best 11. He's probably a big name.
Yeah.
It's tough at left back, but yeah, I think he's probably a big name.
Alan Koch probably telling him how nice Cincinnati is.
I don't know. I don't know. Can you ever be a big name if you played in MLS at one point?
What? I think Messi is a pretty big name, regardless of his league connections to MLS.
But he didn't start in MLS.
Oh,
yeah. Like if you start in MLS, can you ever truly be a big name? Because we always know where you're from.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is the league's only 25 years old.
Right.
It really only started doing academies like maybe 10 years ago.
There's no test of this theory.
I mean, Davies is the best player who started their career in MLS.
Yeah.
It's Alphonso Davies, and then it's quickly like Tim Howard. Like it falls off pretty quickly after that.
DeAndre Yedlin may be up on that list.
He's in the top 10.
Dempsey.
Did he start in MLS? Yeah, he did.
He went to college and played at New England.
Yep. I guess.
Donovan played at Leverkusen before
he came up in their
earthquakes.
Or played in their academy, yeah.
I'm going to be so mad if all this is Gio Reyna. I'm going to be so... I'll root for him. I'll
and
deny
if it is,
that I had
we'll just
this.
delete this episode.
You know who's not going to come on the postcast?
No, he's not. I don't care.
Okay, so let's end on a positive note. You're in charge, and let's make it halfway realistic. So, who do you hope the big name signing is? Assuming they'll fill the striker role, assuming it's a big name, and assuming it's somebody you could reasonably get.
Ronaldo.
I mean, it's
in a strange, fucked up way. It's Ronaldo is more likely than a lot of these names because Ronaldo, you could. The whole thing with MLS is that I don't think there's a lot of gain between spending $15 million for a player and $50 million for a player in MLS. At a certain point, it becomes like you're buying Ferrari parts for a Volkswagen, and the Ferrari parts would make your Ferrari run a lot better, but they're not going to noticeably make your Volkswagen run better because it's still a Volkswagen at the end of the day. Right. And in order to get the best out of your Ferrari parts, you need other Ferrari parts around it working in harmony. And then that all together produces a car that is incredible. But just adding a Ferrari exhaust system to a Volkswagen Jetta is still going to be a Jetta at the end of the day. So I do think to a certain extent, there's a waste zone in MLS. Brenner was close to this, I think, where his talents they depended on other people being better around him. And so I think that there's like a weird limit to how much you can spend and still get value in MLS. But in a strange sort of way, if you go over the top for someone like a Ronaldo or like a Mbappe or like these enormous, ridiculous names, those are the names you could theoretically go to the league and go to the kit suppliers, Adidas, go to Apple and say, hey, we have an opportunity to bring in this insane name. You might get help to do a deal like that. I don't think they're giving you help to do a deal like Dybala, and they're certainly not giving you any help to do Gio Reyna. So to me, if I'm in charge, I do try to replicate the Messi deal and just go over the top for someone and see if you can get the league to help you with it. Otherwise, I think you're wasting time to a certain extent, and you're better off looking for the next Swoboda or the next guy in that price range where it's a value signing.
Yeah. So we got to vote for Ronaldo. Who do you want, Grayson?
So I would say Dybala, and mostly because, I mean, look, if I can make up the Gio thing and then it becomes like real in people's heads. I can meme this one too.
Good.
In my head, Dybala and Lucho are friends.
Your fanfic
already.
here.
And here's why. Here's what that comes from. We know Lucho's like best buddy is Leandro Paredes.
Yeah.
Who plays with Dybala in Roma. And I was trying to find evidence of Dybala and Lucho ever meeting, and I couldn't. But Paredes and Dybala do seem to be pretty tight with each other. It's because they're always hanging out at Roma practice and at the Argentine national team camps and stuff. So I'd say it's a pretty good chance that Dybala and Lucho already know each other. And my one concern about any big name is how's he going to get along with Lucho?
It's Lucho's team.
Yeah.
Right.
But that gets real hard once there's somebody making more money than you.
shows up.
Yeah.
Dybala, I will say Dybala makes sense because I don't know if we talked about this on another episode, but he has a higher release clause if another Italian team would like to purchase him versus a team not in Italy. His wages are within a range that we have seen in MLS, so it is not an absurd number. So there's a couple of things playing into it that makes you think, okay, a $20 million, $30 million transfer fee plus a $8-9 million a year salary could potentially get this done if he is at all interested in playing in MLS at his age. So
do you think if the FC signed Ronaldo, that Lucho would be honor bound to tank his playing time in MLS in order to ensure that the GOAT debate gets awarded to Messi?
I mean, on some level, it's Lucho's only way of ever showing up Messi. That, like, I was the Argentine that should have been on the national, like, not the Argentine. I was the guy who should have been on the national team. I should have been in Europe. I should have been doing all of these things. You guys all overlooked me. Now I'm going to ruin your end of career victory tour. Like I would hope he would feel that way. It's a villain
backstory, and I like it. But
yeah, I don't know. I will see who takes the free kicks.
We're going to release this podcast, and they're going to sign Reina tomorrow, aren't they?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Not tomorrow.
But the thing to remember.
No, hey, no.
The thing to remember about all the signings and stuff is, assuming Bupenza's out, you have one DP spot, and then it sounds like probably 2 more U22 spots.
Oh, which we should point out. Gio would be U22.
You could use U22 on Reina, at least for the rest of the year, if Dortmund is taking enough of his salary.
Yeah.
Or like maybe you convert some of that salary to a loan fee that you just pay back to Dortmund, because the loan fee doesn't account against the U22. So
oh, that's right. Yeah. So there is a funny way to add Reina
Gio and Dybala.
And Ronaldo. Oh,
and
Ronaldo. And then we have Barreal coming back next season because he's still only on loan. Boy, this team's going to be loaded next year. That's enough of this ridiculous conversation, I think. Let's head on over to part 3. Believe it or not, there is a game on Wednesday. Let's talk about it and answer just a couple of Patreon questions while we're at it. All right, we are back. We've got a preview to get to, but before we get to that, I do want to ask a couple of questions from the Patreon, which is my way of saying, hey, you too can support this financially on Patreon, like every other podcast that is out there. But if you give us a couple of bucks a month, you can ask us a question and we will answer it. And that leads me to Ty's question. Now, I will say this is from last month. It's an involved question. So why not ask it now? Ty asks, create a franchise FCC edition. You give it a new name, color scheme, theme, etc. What's the club looking like with the post rebrand? What would we do to rebrand the team? Chief, one idea immediately sprang to my mind, which would be to call the club the Queen City War Pigs. That's a cool name.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Love to meet the guy who thought of that. I like the branding of the team the way it is. Like, I like the crest. I like the badge. I thought they did a really good job bringing over what I thought was probably pretty mediocre branding in the USL era and updating it into something where, like, I know there were takes that, like, a lot of people didn't like the FCC crest when they unveiled it originally. I like it. I think it's aged well. I think it's clean, I think would be the word that a lot of people use that I hate. The only thing I would possibly do differently is move predominantly to a darker shade of blue. Like, I would have been navy and orange as opposed to the orange and more of that royal blue. The only other thing I would change about the branding is I think the team needs a visual identity when it comes to kits that it sticks with. And I'd be okay if that was sort of like the 3-tone design they used in year one in the USL, or if they became a team that played in hoops or in diamonds. But it's like something where the team has a visual identity that stays the same.
Yes.
As kits change, that like you develop some sort of a look. That would be the only branding thing I would change.
Yeah. The orange and blue is a good point. I can only think of one other team on Earth, soccer team, that uses orange and blue, and that's Shakhtar Donetsk. Actually, they use orange and blue. I can't think of any others. There's no major club in Europe. Not to say that Shakhtar Donetsk is not a major club in Europe. I can't think of any others. In MLS, NYCFC in Houston, they do a hint. NYCFC does it because it's from the New York City flag, but yeah, I don't know. They did good job with the colors. It would be the Queen City War Pigs, and they would lean into that. And if Miami wasn't, yeah.
I think it's neat that, I mean, I agree. I'm not a branding person, or like, I'm not a person who gets really into the jersey thing, to begin with. So I don't have a lot of detailed thoughts on what it would be. I think it's neat though that like Pittsburgh, where like all of their teams have like kind of the same color scheme. I mean, you have like the Steelers, the Pirates, the Penguins, and the Crew. They'll have the same.
Well done.
They all have the same color scheme. So like maybe there's some opportunities to like kind of unite all of the city's teams. But
ooh.
Yeah, I was actually thinking as an addendum to our NWSL conversation that if we do an NWSL team here, I would keep orange as their primary color, but I'd go to orange and black, I think. So the women would be black, the men would be blue.
That's fun. I like that. It's just stripes and everybody calls them the Bengals. It'll be fun.
The Bengals.
Okay, so now moving into other questions. David asks, David Mernon asks, how many hydration breaks will be taken on Wednesday? It's going to be hot. Grayson's holding up the actual answer. But should it be more than 2?
Am I the only one that's like shocked that we haven't like mandated hydration breaks now in all MLS games? And just have a mandatory hydration break since it's summer league and then use that to show 30 seconds of commercials?
You son of a bitch, you just did it right there.
This might be the time to roll out the rolling substitutions, TST style.
Ooh.
Just let guys cycle in and out. You don't need hydration breaks because Lucho can just run off and Dotto can jump on for 2 minutes.
Or it's like the hydration window for like those 5 minutes. There's a rolling substitution window where your player can come off, grab a drink, take a break. There can be a 5-minute sub that comes in for that. And then as soon as the hydration window closes, you're stuck with whoever's on the field at that point.
Can you just throw them on and off at your pleasure? Because you could see some really fun ideas where you're like, all right, DeAndre, you're far back. We got the subs warming up behind the other goal. Yedlin, come off. Santos, run on. Now you're behind the defense already.
Or like for those 5 minutes on the substitution break, you have a specific attack package that comes in where all your attackers flood the field.
Man, it would be, there's so many fun things. TST is fun because we're just seeing the beginnings of how like that sports meta is being created, and it's very exciting to see. Like Natty SC pulling their keeper so early, I thought was insane, but I guess that's the optimal strategy. And so
it's interesting to see what ends up happening down the line, because MLS came out, had a whole bunch of different stuff that people are like, oh, you're Americanizing it, blah, blah, blah. And then MLS is like, all right, well, we're going to standardize everything. We're going to get in line with how the world plays the game. And they're going to take us seriously as a professional soccer league in the grand scheme of, the world competition.
Right.
Well, once we've taken this game and made it ours, we just start changing the rules back.
Bigger goals, running penalty kicks. It's going to be great.
By the way, like nobody complains about like Europe making up a bunch of rules to basketball.
Right.
Like having the trapezoidal lane and all that crap.
Right. The Euro step and yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, well. So yeah. 2 hydration breaks. That's the answer. Tom Bedden has a funny question. This is back to back here. If you ran the FC for 4 hours, what changes would you implement? You get 4 hours.
Arena.
How dare you?
And then Chiefs 4 hours start after that, and he immediately releases Gio
Release Gio Arena. Like we have to run it like 1, 2, 3.
Sure, we gotta undo everything Chief just did.
My 4 hours are undoing everything Grayson did and implementing my bold new vision.
I would declassify the Gam and Tam and all that stuff.
I'd release the Ron Jans karaoke tape.
Yes.
And the Matt Miazga tape. The Ron Jans tape.
Actually, I would declassify all of Gerard Nykamp's emails. I would want to know. I want to know what he was talking about, who he was talking to.
I would also grab because I would grab all the teams' discovery lists and throw those things up on like WikiLeaks or whatever. Yeah.
I think there is a football leaks. I don't know if they're still active, but they had released a bunch of like Bayern documents.
Could you imagine like the cycle if it's just like the discovery lists go up and then like everybody knows like who's got Pulisic and who's got whoever else?
Yeah. Does Sporting Kansas City still have Ronaldo?
It's a good question.
Or is Ronaldo so big that no one team actually gets him?
But this goes back to all this other stuff where it's like the MLS misses so much of a news cycle by not having days where they just release this information to stay in the consciousness of the fan base. Like, yeah, you could have a day where just the discovery list is released. And for one day, you get people talking about your league again. And then on the next day, a week from then, you release the Gam and Tam totals. And there's people talking about your league again.
The discovery list being released on like January 28th would be so much fun because Europe's freaking out about the mid-season transfer window. And all of a sudden MLS is publishing, who has Kai Havertz's rights. And it's going to confuse enough Europeans to be like, is Kai Havertz going to Charlotte? What is happening? It's going to be fun. 4 hours, I would suspend Laurel's credentials, but only for the 4 hours that I'm in charge. Hopefully it's not during a training session. That's a joke, by the way. I have nothing against Laurel.
No, I was just going to let that linger out there just to show how serious we were about it.
But only for 4 hours.
That was the only thing that anybody said this episode that they were serious about.
Yes, of course. And I'll ask this final one from Joshua Burke, who asks, which FCC player would win a team-wide hot dog eating contest? Hashtag free...
Hagland.
Free Joey Chestnut. I'm going to guess Josh sent this days before Joey Chestnut was very much freed into a much better competition. But
yeah, Pavel Buka, he needs a lot of protein because of the amount of time he spends in the weight room.
That's true.
But Buka would not eat hot dogs. We know from our conversation with Evan Loro that Buka very much watches what he eats. That he's got a very clean diet.
That's true.
I'm sure Joey Chestnut does too in between competitions. You got to,
It's Hagland.
It has to be Hagland.
It would be really funny if it was Lucho, though. It's just like everyone's saying that. Where does he put them? Where are they going?
Now we know who would win a Chipotle eating contest.
Nick
also
Hagland.
Nick Hagland.
Also probably Nick Hagland.
I will make this commitment. If we find out what Yuya Kubo's Chipotle order is, I will start getting his Chipotle order before every home match for the remainder of the season.
Is Chipotle an MLS sponsor? They were at one point. This feels like an opportunity. They used to sponsor the youth all-star game of some kind. There was some youth game that was played the day before the all-star game.
Do you think we could convince Chipotle that we're the Washington Post?
Yes.
I've always wondered why they didn't sponsor the Chipotle Burrito Bowl for college football. That seemed like such an easy sponsorship opportunity.
They must really want you to get the burritos and not the bowls.
If they want to sponsor us.
Yeah, I'll shill for Chipotle. I'll criticize every person out there that's filming the workers trying to get bigger portions.
Yeah. Hothead
How
burrito.
dare you gluttonous fools?
Go somewhere else, hothead. Your menu's too confusing. Genuinely, I don't know what's going on when I walk in there. So thank you to the patrons on Patreon. If you too would like such thorough answers to your hard-hitting questions, you can give us money, or else we will never answer a question from you. So we have this game on Wednesday, June 19th, Philadelphia Union. Is this on cable? I ask because FOTMob is telling me it is being played at 7:45. Did either of you know that?
Sure didn't.
Okay.
But I do want to give credit out because I just saw this as I was checking the time in the Discord. UK Phillips, shout out. You're going to get a live read of your Discord message on the show. Ordering a triple portion of protein is now known as the Kubo at Chipotle.
Perfect. Just gonna start saying that, and then you don't know?
Give me the Kubo. Yeah, that's what all the cool kids are ordering these days. It's a Hattie. I don't know. What I do know though is that Philadelphia appears to be in some form of disarray right now.
Yes.
We've always known Philadelphia is not exactly, how do I want to put this? They're not spendy. They don't like spending a lot of money.
A low aspirations team.
Yeah. And sort of famously, what we are seeing right now is this idea of you're taking the Philadelphia system and asking the question, what if Philadelphia, but with ambition?
With Ronaldo.
With Ronaldo. They lost. They're coming off a bad loss where they were playing Miami. Miami was down 9 men and somehow still managed to score a game-winning goal in extra time. And Kai Wagner, one-time FC Cincinnati target, I believe we can say. That was an unsuccessful pursuit.
Yes. Also, one-time racist. So he's got that on his record. So,
playing Kai Wagner on Juneteenth, bold. Kai Wagner says in the postgame after this debacle of a loss to a 9-man Miami team, who I don't think Messi was even playing in this game.
He was not.
No, neither was Suarez.
All right, so this is the quote from Kai Wagner. Quote, I think we should see now that we have to invest in the team. We need players who can help us. We should not just believe our young guys can come up and play, and everybody just says, okay, we have young guys coming up. They should help us. That's not how it is. I think everybody sees it. The fan base, we see it. I think if that's not clear and honest, everybody should know in the front office that we should go out now and get new players.
Well, Carranza, did you mention Carranza going to Feyenoord?
I did not know.
He is gone. It was very funny. Jim Curtin just like in a press conference was like, I don't know if this is official or whatever, but he is not on our team anymore. The league, I would say MLS did post a cute little graphic. He is gone. Gazdag is playing with Hungary in the Euros. So
that's good.
He is not available.
I hate that guy.
Yeah. Andre Blake is still hurt. I think he signed a new contract and then was immediately injured for what looks to be the rest of the season. And Philly hasn't beaten us in the last 3 tries. You got to go back to that to the playoffs in 2022 to find the last time that they beat us in a competition. They haven't won a game in 4 matches. The last win was against the New England Revolution, 3-0, which is kind of cheating because New England.
They've been better recently.
They have been recently.
Like very recently. Like in the last 3 matches. They've been.
They were not good then.
No, they're still probably not good. Now, Kevin, on a scale of 1 to concerned, how concerned are you that our back line for this upcoming match could very well be Kip Keller, Ian Murphy, and Nick Hagland?
I love it. Honestly, that's a good back line. That's a good team. This team is fine.
Good.
It's a better back line than we started in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. It's a
Famously
better
a match that turned out well for us.
Better back line than we rolled out against Columbus in Columbus last year in the regular season. So I'll take our chances, you know. It'll be fun.
I think Philly's style. I think that back line can handle the way Philly plays.
Yeah, you just can't let them counter on you. You've got to they're not going to break you down tactically. You've just got to be smart in possession, and you've got to not give them opportunities to go 1v1.
Yeah, basically.
Bold analysis on my part. Otherwise, I think that the only other question would be, do we see Aaron Bupenza in this game on Wednesday? I would say yes. What say you?
Yes, but not starting.
No, I don't think he'll start.
I'm going to say no.
Ooh. But is he on the bench?
Just being different.
Is he unused substitute? I think that is interesting.
I think he's not on the bench.
Okay.
I'm going to choose to believe if he's not on the bench, that means they've got a sale lined up and they're just trying to get all the paperwork finalized and not risk any.
That's where my head's at.
If he's not on the bench, is he in the stadium? I'm just going to keep asking.
No, he's not. He's not in the country.
My God!
Get ready to learn Turkish, buddy.
Again.
You are leaving Cincinnati, Spore.
Please play your bar tab on the way out.
Well, honestly, don't.
Yeah,
stiff him. Security was crap anyway. So midweek game, it's gonna be hotter than hell. That's always fun. Love that. Love being the home team if it's gonna be hotter than hell, because at least you're in your own facility. You're in the nicer locker room. That's if you're gonna be miserable at home. Don't be miserable on the road. I'm gonna bet that we see a Yuya Kubo start. I feel like the man has earned it.
I mean, it has to be.
If you don't score, if you don't get the start after a hat trick, you got to ask some questions to the management. I think at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see a Kelsey Kubo pairing up top. I think we'll see a Bupenza in for Kelsey at some point, and I think the FC wins. I think they win 2-0. I feel Philly's got a vibe about it right now that sucks. There's a bad vibe. There's, your star players shouldn't be out talking about we need new players. I feel like you don't win the next game after that happens ever.
They've been in a really weird spot basically all season. It has felt like the whole locker room culture is being put together with duct tape and, slapped together patches to keep that whole thing afloat. Jim Curtin is, I think, doing a good job to keep it together up to this point, but it does feel primed to all blow apart. And I will say, if the U.S. men's national team does not show well in the Copa, I think he is begging for that job to get out of Philly, because this is going nowhere quick for him, and he is going to ruin his own reputation if he sees this out over the next 2 years, would be my guess. So yeah, I think we win this one, and I think it's like a 2-1, and it's nervy the entire time because of course it is. It always is with these two teams. What say you, Grayson?
I'm gonna say 0-0.
Ooh.
I don't know. I think, yeah, Philly's in a bad way, but like, those guys are like there's pros on that. Like, they're pros on that team.
Yeah.
Like, Curtin's a great coach. Curtin knows how to play us. We obviously know how to play them as well, but they're missing a lot of attackers. They're still going to be pretty solid defensively. You know they're going to make it hard for you to play them in certain ways. And I don't think Wagner comes out and says something like that. Like, I think he says something like that in part to, you know, put pressure on management, but also to like wake up his locker room.
Yeah.
You know, like
they're 1 win in their last 10.
Yeah, but I don't like playing Philly. I don't like Philly, but I got a lot of respect for a number of guys, like, even still in that locker room. So I don't know.
I'm sorry, 1 win in their last 11.
How many ties?
Quite a few. 2, 3, 4, 5 ties. That's
How
right.
many 0-0 ties?
2 in the last 4 matches. They've tied 2. They tied 0-0 with Charlotte and 0-0 with Toronto. The 0-0 with Toronto is pretty impressive, actually. Toronto is not bad.
All right.
I don't know.
I said what I said.
Yeah, I think not winning this game would be disappointing. It would be very Cincinnati, not particularly FC Cincinnati, but it would be very Cincinnati to come off a big win like that on the West Coast and come back and lay an egg midweek. It's a lot of travel. It's going to be hot. I still think they win. I think 2-1. I think they still win.
Yeah, man. This is a bummer of a stretch after this Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. Ugh. All right. Well, there you go. That's those are the predictions. And just again, well done, Yuya Kubo. You did all of us proud over here.
And if you are a player on FC Cincinnati that's thinking to yourself, I'd like a performance bump too. What can I do to make my next match something that will get me on the highlight reel and have everyone tweeting, I vote, hashtag your
Corey
name here.
Baird. We are
Corey
talking
Baird.
to you, Corey Baird. The
Player
last
of the
two
week.
guys were coming back from injury. They had big games immediately after.
Yeah.
Step right up.
You don't even have to be injured. Maybe you're a Dado Valenzuela that wants to, I want to get on the score sheet and I want to start seeing my name in lights. I want permission to have Dado on the back of my jersey. I want that special dispensation. I don't want my last name there. I want Dado. Maybe you come on the postcast. Maybe that's your bump, is that your jersey gets changed. I don't know. I can't promise you how the postcast works. I'm just saying I'm seeing the results out in front of us. Hit me in the DMs.
Yeah. Chief, get us out of here.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.